Notice is hereby given of a special meeting of the Board of Directors for this district to be held at 105 Fort Road, Portisville, Texas on 19th day of April 2023 at the hour 5:30 p.m. for consideration of all the business of the agenda below. This notice is posted at the office of the district on April 13th at 4:00 p.m. in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, not less than 72 hours prior to the time of said meeting. Item number 1, I'm calling this meeting to order. We have a quorum of Mr. Bowder, Mr. Donahue, myself, Mr. Starkey on Zoom, and Mr. Friedman also on Zoom?
No.
Okay. Oh, no, I'm looking up there at the screen. Yeah, that's bond council, okay. I love it. Well, no hearing problems there. Great, if we can take a stand, item 2, pledge of allegiance.
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we come today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support towards our agenda items that we have presented today. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Item 3, discuss and take action ratifying the issuance, sale, and delivery of Laguna Madre Water District, Long Island Village Defined Area Unlimited Tax Bonds, taxable 2023, and awarding the sale of such bonds to the North American Development Bank as set forth in resolution number 200-04-2023, approved by the board on April 5th.
A matter of clarification, that's on the record. You specifically instructed us to not close the financing unless we had a contribution.
Have them turn the microphone on, please.
Thank you, Mr. Starkey. All right.
Thank you.
So basically, at the last meeting, the board instructed us to only close this financing, which is anticipated to close on April 27th, unless LIV will contribute about $1.4 million. After talking to their counsel, Ms. Cunningham, she was of the opinion that to take money from their reserve into this project, into this reserve fund, will be pretty inadequate. So what we wanted to do, well, we actually found another solution. Within the construction budget, there's a contingency line item that is significant enough to put aside for our protection of credit, which is what we care about, that amount. So I've asked bond counsel, Tom Spurgeon, to tell us and what is to tell us how to best proceed. And basically it's just to take that condition away, but we're still going to do it out of contingency though. And that's all this is, ratifying the resolution to show that the money will come out of contingency within the construction budget. And then I did tell Ms. Cunningham, well, when we go with this project, and if there are any cost overruns, can we count on that reserve? I said, oh yeah, for construction is fine, it's just not for the reserve. So that's all that was. And bond counsel felt compelled to have you re-ratify the resolution.
That's what this is.
That's what this is.
Okay.
Sorry for the long story, but that's what.
No, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. It should get re-ratified. And my question is your question.
Yes.
How do we have contingency? If we're using the contingency for basically.
For cost overruns
fund,
and construction risk. That's, I was very specific. And they said for that, the LIV bylaws do not require them to take them to the voters. I mean, they felt like if they were going to put this money for reserve, they were going to have to take it to the voters. By doing it this way, they don't, because it's cost of the project.
So we can go to them and say, hey, you got to pay for this, you got to pay for
Except if we're short $500,000, we're going to have about $400,000 in excess of, after we put aside this $1.4 million, another 400,000. But if they're short, let's say another $500,000, then we go to them. And Randy, our engineer, is here, and he basically understands that, hey, if there are any cost overruns, we're going to them for any of that. And then talking to Charles Ortiz, he's telling me that the last phase of the project, I guess, contemplates connecting to the homes.
Yeah, the yard lines with Rosie, the last part is done.
So those are the parts that if you don't agree to pay, guess what? We're not connected to your home. There are ways to get across for that, but there is that level of risk and exposure at the back end of the project.
And we have it just verbal from Kathy?
Yes, sir. For now, we do.
Is that good enough for us? I would think so.
Okay, we can-
I don't know. I wouldn't feel comfortable this place, I would say so.
Can
Yeah.
Mr. Bowder turn his microphone on?
Hello? What?
Is somebody's microphone not on? Is yours
Dave
on?
Bowder.
Mine's on.
Ours are all on.
Is it better now?
Now I can hear you. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, I would ask when Kathy get us, or can Ms. Cunningham, excuse me, put us something in writing? And I'll ratify this today. I mean, I would personally vote for it pending something in writing from her, which I can't imagine her not doing that. Is there a reason we couldn't proceed on that route? Yeah,
So what,
Yeah.
you're certainly entitled to ask for whatever. In
Yeah.
fact, if in fact there's another issue, we still have until the 27th to close, so we can always call another meeting.
Yeah.
Don't we have a meeting on 26?
Yes.
Next week.
So,
Can't we just make a motion though to do it contingent upon the fact that she's gonna have it in writing?
because you know, there's always contingencies.
yeah, I mean, there's
I've never
no
seen
way.
where there isn't.
There's no way this project comes in under budget. I
No.
mean, I've been up here long enough now to see that not ever occur. So I want there to be, yeah, I think we need some mechanism for collecting this money, and it's irresponsible to do it otherwise. Right? Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to be here and now we're on the hook for 500 grand and then we're fighting at the end and they're fighting back at us because they're saying, well, we've done everything we could. You should be turning our water on. And we're like, no, we shouldn't. Like, that's a foreseeable end game. And if I can foresee it, it could happen. And I don't want to be sitting here when that happens.
Yeah, the whole issue is the mechanics. The cost overruns, they have to admit is theirs. I mean, it's hard to disagree.
Yeah.
So, but at the end of the day, they just need to know, hey, their cost overruns, it's on you guys.
Yeah.
In fact, when you talk about cost overruns, I mean, look at we were just talking earlier about the cost overruns on the project we awarded in 19, and now we having to go to the Water Development Board for more money. And, costs are coming up, are going up.
Is there anyone from LIV here? No? I assume everybody just assumed this would be a quick, simple pass, but you guys, it seems sort of hard to pass up on the 1.4 million that we all suggested was important to have, and then just.
Especially if they have the money.
Yeah, I mean, they have it, and this is basically,
My question is, what happens if they use that reserve
For something else.
prior to the end, and what happens then?
yeah.
Yeah, they
And
might
they
have
don't have
another,
reserve.
they might have another reason to spend their reserve.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I
What
don't
about
know
priorities?
If they use that reserve prior to the project being done.
Yeah, and I have a feeling well, I won't speak for anybody else. Mr. Starkey, do you have any comments on this? May not be able to hear us.
Yeah, being actually in the construction industry, I don't feel very good about.
We lost him.
All right, well.
That's probably an LIV. No, I'm just kidding.
I make a motion that we pass it contingent to Ms. Cunningham agreeing to absorb anything that comes from the back end.
And my question is, what happens if they use?
Well, man, if she agrees to it, they gotta find the money.
You know, it's $1.4 million worth. Scott, our chairman, isn't here. I would rather see a table until the 26th.
That's good.
Is there any reason we can't do that? Or next week, or in 2 days? I mean, if I had known this, we wouldn't be sitting here, be honest with you guys. I didn't understand the situation we would be here. And I don't, we are usually the type of board that like, hey, full steam ahead. You guys have seen that for 5 years, but it seems irresponsible on that 1.4 million.
Noe, would this cause any problems if this is done on the 26th?
I mean, I'll leave it up more to Jay Juarez and Tom Spurgeon. And you guys are both on mute. Can you get unmuted?
I'll come back in 3 days if we have to. It's not a big deal to be here. And I know these guys will do the same
Yeah.
thing.
Jay?
I'm here now. Hey, guys, can you all hear me okay?
What do you have to say?
Let him talk first.
Okay.
Jay, any thoughts?
Yeah, can you all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. No, certainly y'all can do whatever you want. That is your prerogative. That wouldn't cause the closing to be delayed. From our perspective, y'all are gonna meet on the 26th. Y'all try to get something in writing from Kathy, then that works from our perspective.
I
Perfect.
don't know why they can't make a good faith effort by putting $500,000 in or something to that effect. I mean, they basically came back and said, no, we won't put in the 1.4.
No, no, they didn't say that. What they
No.
said was that the interpretation from Kathy was that the bylaw, the charter regarding the use of those funds was restricted only for projects, not for this reserve fund. It's an interpretation issue. So it's not they objected to it. In fact, Kathy totally understood our position. I mean, we're not gonna compromise our interest in any way or form. He said, no, we understand, but, and then I said to her, if we have cost overruns, you realize you're gonna have to ante up. Oh, no, we understand that. Those are projects. But going with Mr. Donahue's concern is that, well, that's now. And if something else takes a priority, let's say they want to do, I think, electricity or whatever, they start deviating those projects, then what? When does this stop?
So, can
Exactly.
you guys hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't know why I got cut out right, but I was going to talk earlier, but I'm assuming one can hear me. This is my sense, being in the industry of construction. Overrun is inevitable and it's going to happen. And I understand Mrs. Cunningham's position as she represents this client and the nature that these funds are not permissible to be allocated in this fashion on the front end. However, I absolutely support Adam's initiative. Have her put something in writing that clearly represents their responsibility to cover any and all overruns, not limited to 1.4, but recognizing that this 1.4 was taken from a contingency line item, right? I mean, it should be mentioned. But yeah, I mean, I put liens on every property. Any property I'm building a house on that ain't Gallery's property, we put a lien on. I don't know if we have any kind of mechanics lien that gives us first position rights, but outside of all that, there should be something in writing that's non-negotiable. Like, all right, we're here. You owe us $1.2 million. There's not like, oh, well, I don't like whatever means necessary. Assessment, grab that fund. That fund's empty. Well, you want water on, we negotiated on the front end. And then, so I don't want to delay closing either, but that needs to happen.
Why couldn't we ask for 1.2 million and call it part of the construction and we put the money up for the contingency?
Again,
And then she,
from her perspective, you're saying they'll have to have a vote. And if they put that for a vote, that there's a risk that some people are not as well informed as others and therefore fail on something that is a technicality.
This is all risk management. In order to move forward, we need the risk to be back on their side of the street. That's the only way I'm going to be all in on this again.
What kind of letter are we gonna have for guarantee that reserve fund's gonna be there?
We don't.
And what happens if they lose their reserve fund because there's a hurricane type thing? And we're the
Now,
ones sitting on that one.
I mean, you could get that path. Let's say we do nothing. Let's say because they're not as well informed as we are and we do absolutely nothing. Then you have a customer that is kind of like chicken and the egg. You got to protect the customer too because of the revenues. All we're saying is we need to do this not necessarily for legal purposes, but for credit purposes. If you're doing all that out there, we need to protect. We felt compelled to tell you $1.4 million is what you need. Now, can you get full protection? It's going to be very hard. And I want you to go on that path. There's going to have to be certain certainties from Ms. Cunningham or whoever that if their cost overruns, and it's hard to disagree, Mr. Starkey, that if it's $1.4 million, it's one number, but if it's $2 million, they still have to take care of that, not us.
even if they lose their contingency, they would still owe us money. We just have to wait for them to build
Yeah,
their
but if
contingency
they,
back up.
they have no money.
Oh, I know, but
but
they
they
will
get-
again in the
And we gotta
future.
keep this going.
Yeah.
So I suggest we get our attorney to make sure the wording on whatever letter we're gonna get
Yeah.
is right. That's
Yeah,
right.
yes, agreed.
So, question is, we can wait till the next meeting of the 26th?
I mean, we can wait. I mean, that gives them a peace of mind, and I think bond counsel is saying we can wait till the 26th. I'm just glad I was here to make sure that we had a clear understanding.
But Carlos.
In the
we-
meantime,
Let's give their engineer a chance to say something.
There you go.
And the great thing is I'm representing y'all on this here too. And the good thing is, don't forget, that's an infrastructure fund that they're putting aside. It has been putting aside for a time period. That's why it's accumulated that value. So they have actually voted on it and set it aside and they're continuing. So that's that mechanism is so important, right? So it needs to be backing up and having the contingency. So what I'm looking at as the engineer on it is like, well, what do we do? You know, like I said, there's, everybody's saying it right. Everything goes up. It's continuing to go up in price. So what do we do as an engineer? You know, a lot of times you may have to cut off an area like the Scallop or some of the other areas that we've talked about, maybe Cameron, that just does, that the line work is still in good shape and certified. And so we take those areas out of the job. So we haven't, dived into all that, but there are possibilities with that, not only to, certainly the infrastructure fund that they have and continue to collect, I think it's $33 a month or a lot, times 1,040 plus, or plus some
And
options.
because it is called an infrastructure fund, they define the infrastructure fund only for infrastructure projects. Go back to the infrastructure could be other projects, such as water and sewer. So if they start using that fund for something else, with water, that they're not gonna go anywhere. They're gonna still collect that revenue. We just wait, still owe you the $1.2 million, whatever that number is. I'm more concerned that if Randy, or whoever the project, you're not gonna go out for bids until another 6-7 months, because you're not done with the design, correct? So between now and 6 or 7 months, some other priority may come up over there. But from our perspective, you still have control of the money, all the money. You don't have to do anything other than, you do have a lien on the property because you're gonna start levying taxes from them come September. And I hate to, if you delay the closing, which that's not what is being contemplated here, but if you delay the closing, then who knows what interest rates will be doing then. And I think when people ask, can we do it next week? Yeah, you can do it next week. Can we get a letter from Ms. Cunningham? The fact that, and I remember, she mentioned it is an infrastructure fund, and it was not contemplated to fund potential reserves. That's why she held back on that. And so I suspect, and I did tell her that the cost overruns or construction risk issues, again, despite the fact that they get insurance, and you got timing issues, delivery issues, that if you have a hurricane, things are gonna get slowed, who knows if they're gonna change the prices. At the end of the day, it's on them, and that's what the infrastructure fund is for. They got $2 million. So I was kind of like you, why are you making such a big deal about $1.4 million? Because it was an infrastructure fund.
Yeah.
That was the whole issue.
Is there anything that, I assume we have a nice,
Thank you.
a nice contract with LIB? Is there a contract with us to do this with them?
Yes, we do, because that's why
I
we
assume
have
there must be,
the
right?
lien.
Like a contract for us to do this, get done by a certain time? Like what if they come back and say, you're taking too long? Is that on us or on them?
I mean, as far as the bond covenants that are.
No, as far as us building, getting it all done, like who is that on them or that's on us?
Well, is there like a scheduling on that, Randy?
There's a contract.
Scheduling time?
There's a contract between you, the district, and NatBank. NatBank is gonna hold you accountable for it, not LIB. LIB could not get to first base on this project. They're not a political subdivision per se. They don't have the credit that you have.
Right.
They wouldn't have qualified for the funds from either Water Development Board or NatBank. So NatBank gives you that money and you're supposed to deliver it. If you have a problem with your son, or if you want to call him that, or brother, or whatever, it's between you and them.
Sure.
You do have an authority based on the bond covenants that because the bonds are general obligation bonds, they have the full moral authority of those bonds. So if they decide not to pay you back, you go and confiscate their property. You have that right.
So it's LIB's, LIB is going to get their own contract with their own people to build the infrastructure, or we are building the infrastructure?
You're gonna build it.
That's what I mean. So can LIB be like, hey, you're taking too long?
It's no different than when you build a project for your customer base.
Yeah. And well, a lot of times there is a time on that. Do they have an expectation of when this will be done? Because they could come back and, hey, we've had overruns. Well, you guys took a year too long. We're not paying the overruns because you took too long. There's crap that goes down when these things happen for this amount of money.
Yeah, the timeframe that I'm recalling for the net rate agreement is about 42 months.
Cool. Like that's something that we might want to have in writing, and somewhere that says, hey, it may take us 42 months, it may take us 60 months. There's a lot of unforeseens here because they don't want us to come back, and I don't want there to be any reason that they can come back after us and not pay this $1.1
Yes.
million that is out there. And there's lots of smart lawyers.
Dr. Lalonde,
Not pay lawyers money.
Dr. Lalonde, may I interject?
Yes, go ahead.
For 1 second. And forgive me, I'm getting ready to exit the meeting for the event that I'm attending, but my thoughts on this matter are aligned with Dr. Lalonde's, and it looks like the rest of our board as well. I just feel like there should be a mutually agreed upon legal document that mitigates the risk of contingency overrun costs 100% completely to LIV, regardless of the balance of their, whatever fund. It could be zero. They're still responsible, and we will not complete and render full service until it's satisfied. That needs to happen, and it should have been at this meeting. It's definitely going to be at the next meeting. And if it is, then there'll be no delays in closing. But that's what I'm looking for.
Well, and I think our attorney needs to look it over and see if it's got the right.
Yeah, so it's the 19th, and Brian and Miss Cunningham have some work to do.
Yeah, I move that we table this.
Guys, if I could, this is Jay Waters and Nicole
Right.
Parkhurst, and I might reel in Tom here to see if he agrees with me, just to get a second opinion. But I think we could get something in writing from Miss Cunningham with regards to her legal opinion. But I think it looks like, and Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, we might need to delay the closing if we're going to need to have the LIV board meet to approve some sort of a contingency fund agreement with Laguna Madre Water District, and they can't meet before the 26th.
Yeah, Jay, I agree with that. I mean, this will involve something that's going to take a little time to get them on board and to do some kind of a formal agreement. I mean, I guess on one hand, we recognize the fact that it sounds like these funds are restricted for purposes of infrastructure, and they should be recognizing that is what those funds are going to be intended to be used for. It would be for cost overruns to help complete the project and things like that. I guess part of my question is there a contract already with between the district and LIV to build this project? And that kind of goes back to, I think, one of the board members' question about whose obligation is it to pay any sort of cost overruns? Is that already included in a contract?
No, I haven't seen any of that.
I haven't seen a contract at all. So like, we're about to take a big loan for LIV without having a contract in place for what the heck we're gonna do, our responsibilities are. That's important. Does that make sense? Do we have a contract?
It's sort of like servicing a customer. I'm thinking that's the position I was thinking in the past. That's a customer you have,
And you take in the position of, we gotta provide that service for them. Now, because they're a defined area, kind of a sub-political subdivision,
Yeah.
and they have, like you said, they have their lawyer, and can they come back to you? I mean, at the end of the day, I think from our perspective, from a credit perspective, you need to have them here for to protect you. Beyond that, we gotta make sure that the mechanics are in place for your satisfaction. And you have to do, my biggest concern was when I saw there was no protection on credit, then I have to bring it up to you guys, and then now the issue is legal. And
Yeah,
you
it
overcome that.
seems like it's both a credit issue in terms of having money on the line and also a legal issue of having an agreed upon
Exposure.
understanding between, right now, it's kind of like a verbal understanding, which is, hey, you guys are gonna give us a water system. Thanks, we can't wait. It might be a little bit more complicated than that, I think.
Because they're paying for it.
Yeah,
You're not giving it to them, you just.
that's right. We're not just giving you some
Yeah,
lines. And
and
I
they-
do have some real concerns as well. And things like this come up when they come up. I'm just a board guy. These might have been brought up sooner from you guys. I was kind of thinking about it the other day in the shower, which is we're installing all these lines like that are going to be just underneath all their stuff, right? Like it's elevated above the water. Is that where it is? It's not in dirt. Is that correct?
Are you talking about the existing one now?
Like we're going to go in and redo all their pipes, right?
On
Yeah.
the right of ways.
They're gonna be in the streets.
Yes.
So, but it's not in the dirt, right? It's,
It has to be underground, not on the lot.
yeah, it's underground, but no, it's under the street, but it's elevated, right? It's
Right,
like,
right.
you can go down there and look at it if you're in a little, right?
no,
this is all
we gotta
very
dig it up. if
It's,
we wanna
is
see
it buried in dirt?
Yes.
So it's not
Has to be.
suspended above salt water, like our line that goes across the bridge and breaks all the time. Yeah, maybe the engineer can help answer these things.
Thank you, absolutely. So if you recall, most of it's been, the original mobile home philosophy was it was kind of trenched under those lots, put in there. So the new methodology, of course, is just gonna be like a brand new subdivision. It's gonna be going down the street. You have your
Okay.
water, wastewater buried, maybe
With-
4 foot
with
of
the
cover.
right of way, all the stuff.
With, exactly.
In
yes.
dirt, not suspended
In
above
dirt, that's
stuff. Okay,
exactly.
I just was
right, yes.
worried about that.
No, exactly.
So this would be
right.
like same type
Yes.
of pipes we run everywhere else, same type
Right.
of system.
That's correct.
Okay, well, that makes me more
All
comfortable.
fire
Our main-
rated,
Our
all.
main line comes to the entrance of the street,
Right,
under.
and it then goes underground.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Right,
So
yes, thank you.
that takes that away. It doesn't take what are our expectations and their expectations, right? Like, if it's not encapsulated in a contract, I'm actually kind of, Charles, I feel like you're making a face at me like you're nuts, but I'm confused, or is your face like you're right, we need a contract?
Well, I mean, I guess it's, as the final design is put out, the scope that's issued under a construction contract would only proceed as long as there's funds available for the work to proceed. So once we've used the full, project fund through the tax bond, essentially no additional work would be, proceed.
Yeah, that's the money side of it. And I totally agree. Like, hey, yeah, you know, if there's no more money left, they can't keep building. But we don't have an understanding with them ahead of time of like, here's exactly what we're going to do for you. And here's exactly what we expect out of you. Now let's put that all in writing and go with it. I mean, unless we do have that.
Doesn't the vote that was taken from water district and the vote that was from their board and doesn't all that?
The bond, that was, everything that came out of that is already in the bond referendum.
Right, there was an
So-
engineer's report that backed up the election to describe that scope of work.
Now, the only thing that I think on the timeframe, on the scheduling and all that we have available from Randy when he completes his design and all that, we have to follow NetBank's requirements on completing the project within the timeframe that's in their contract, not LIV's. So it's NetBank's requirements on the timeframe and scheduling and all that. So once you finish your design, then we can look into that and make sure that we complete and comply within the 42 months.
Yeah, go, Dave.
So, yeah.
Well, I guess my final comment would be, I would love to make sure that our council, their council, and our management feels confident about, you know, where we're headed with the entire deal, and that everybody feels like, yeah, we have all our bases covered, and they understand like, hey, it's gonna get built in this amount of time, and this is how it's gonna be. Don't ask for it in 2 years, it might take 5 years, you know, this is that type of scope. And I just wanna make sure that everybody knows where we're headed ahead of time, especially because there could be money out there at the end we gotta fight over. And so the more things that we take care of now and sort out, the less things that we might have to argue about later. That's my only thought on it. Does that make sense? So,
My biggest problem again is they're not committing anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, you know, that $1.4 million, even though it's infrastructure, could be a lot of different infrastructure. And if we did have a hurricane, and they use that money, and then people aren't paying, where are we gonna be?
we'll be short 1.4 plus any contingency. So, I wish is there counsel on the phone who's different than Miss Cunningham? Do they have a different counsel? No? So we're gonna have to go educate. I mean, do you mind talking to Miss Cunningham and kind of explaining our thoughts
Well, I'm
on
gonna
it?
leave your lawyers with me.
Yeah,
Yeah, Brian needs to be involved.
Brian would be good too. I think everybody thought like, oh, this is done, cool, so no one wanted to be here.
Nobody thought
So-
about it before he
No,
talked.
you definitely didn't, and I appreciate that. It seems like you're the only one who came ready, and you always are. So I just feel like, this should be tabled, and then we need to come back as soon as possible. Happy to do it before the 26th. In case there's some sort of scheduling thing where they are guaranteeing us that they will pay us, and they understand that we will not be supplying water until the entire bill is paid. That should be in the writing somewhere, like, not just, oh, you gotta pay your contingency, but that no water gets turned on until the entire bill is paid in full. That's the main thing.
I
That's
think,
gotta be in
I
writing.
think that what gives me a peace of mind is that you're in control of the project. And if they're not gonna pay cost overruns, you have to award the contracts, right?
Yeah.
You do the design, you just don't award the contracts until they go out there and say, here's my money. So it's that simple. It's a question chicken and the egg. That's why I said that earlier. I think if you don't mind, tomorrow, this may be just a simple call to Kathy with our lawyers tomorrow and say, hey, here's what came out of the board. And we have to memorialize their concerns from our board. And you tell us, hey, it's not only this cost overrun, but any cost overruns. Or else we just don't award the contract that's been designed by the engineer. And it's that simple.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I don't want to cut any engineering corners either. Like, we want to do this right, do
Yeah,
it
you
one
wanna-
time,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
We don't
yeah,
want to
yeah.
build this and it be like, oh, well, we're looking at overruns, so I guess we better cut the quality here to make sure we don't know, like, hey, if it costs more money, sorry, it costs more money. We're not gonna try and save
But
money.
you're not gonna give it water, but that ain't gonna help us pay them one back, that we have to pay back, that we're borrowing.
well,
Yeah.
the one that you're borrowing, you're gonna collect the tax in addition to the tax you currently collect. So the issue here is not as to whether you're gonna collect their money or not. The issue is if cost overruns occur on the spot, you need that $1 million, or you need that $1.4 million, or $2 million, whatever the number is. And how do you collect that money? Now, you have the ability to go out there and get a note because you have credit, because you have a local subdivision. They don't. And you can always pass on that expense to them. And I don't know, Tom Spurgeon, you're on the line. If we have the authority or the power to levy from them for the benefit of this district, levy a tax to pay a note that we borrowed because they didn't want to pay us because the infrastructure fund had been depleted for other purposes. Can LIV do that? Or can Long Beach, can Laguna Madre do that for the benefit of LIV, and LIV be assessed a special fee?
No, I am not aware of something that would be permitted. I'm not sure what kind of legal authority there is for that. I mean, I guess I'm a little surprised that there has, since this whole project has been discussed over the last couple of years or so, all kind of developed in connection with calling the bonds. What was it, about a year ago, or maybe less than that? But I guess I'm just a little surprised that there wasn't some kind of a project agreement that had been entered into by the parties to kind of set out some of the things that you're all talking about. And it all makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. To get anything done and still close on April 27th, I think is going to be a real stretch. That we could perhaps look at some kind of a very short form type of an agreement that sets out the basics that we absolutely need. But I still think that's going to be very difficult to get done if there's not anything already in place that related back to all of the planning that went into just getting this to the voters in the first place.
Well, I think if I'm on the board, permit me to share my experience with you guys. If we don't have a simple agreement that is comprehensive to protect us, then we do a project agreement that will delay the project for 3 or 4 months, whatever, but we gotta be protected, one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, their lawyer came back basically and took the risk and moved it to us. And so, cool, we're gonna have to push back a bit against that.
The only
We're taking all the
agreement,
risk.
the only agreement that I can recall that's between us and Long Island Village it had to do with the election. Now, I don't remember if it extends into the project, but we did create an agreement between us and them before we called the election, and it specified who was going to pay what, and but I don't remember if it extended into the whole project.
So the agreement is important, but the covering us on the contingency and making sure we're not on the hook is the most important. And so I'll task you guys with that, and you're gonna talk with them. Sorry to give you more work, but
No.
I think it's kind of essential.
Yeah, but I mean, if you provide a letter that the fund would be basically the same form as contingency, I mean, would that suffice, or it has to get more legal?
There should be something that makes it perfectly clear that they will not get water until all costs of the project are paid in full. right? I mean, am I wrong in saying that? Anybody who
No,
thinks that's nuts,
no,
tell me.
I believe that's correct.
Okay. And we don't have anything anywhere where they have agreed to do that. No, and what we do have is somebody saying, well,
It looks like
we're gonna
that.
have to take the contingency fee and use it in a different way. So it's kind of like, all right, well, that contingency fee, in my mind, is really just the cost. We don't know that they're, what they are titled yet. They're the real cost.
I wonder if we can collect the taxes because something happens, the taxes aren't.
And
No,
to
you have the
clarify,
power.
they are getting service right now through the homeowners association.
Yeah, so even worse, what are we supposed to do? Turn off the water at that point? Because they haven't paid us? You know, hey, we can't let you use the new
Can't we
pipes.
legally do that?
But you still owe us $1.4 million, and now we're not turning on all your new, you know, it could be a real mess.
I really, I mean, you're really going to a path that needs to be addressed. It has to be done in the most simplest of forms.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you know, I think you have the power to manage the project according to the funds that you cannot get more money that you don't have. Is that simple? And if it can only be done with 90% of the project, and these guys don't want to pay $1.4 million, they can't afford to not pay you that $1.4 million.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to come up one way or the other with those funds. But I do agree that to a certain level is that, well, I'm afraid of this, let your board handle it. Well, I can tell you, I think I've known this board well enough to be just as conservative as I am. I got to protect myself, and I'm like you, anybody can sue for any purpose, but I think you do have control of the project. Right, Randy?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, we're gonna go out and design this, he's gonna go out and design for you this project, you're gonna let it out for bids. If the bids are over, I mean, I think you already, Charles, you going to a meeting tomorrow?
The 26th would be their meeting at 9 in the morning. Well, and it's just the status of the infrastructure
Well, what,
project.
if it's a board meeting, why can you put, maybe talk to Kathy, tell
Yeah,
Kathy, brief the board.
right, they have a board meeting on 9 AM on the 26th. If there's something that needs to be addressed on that agenda.
And they can call special board meetings for lots of reasons.
I mean, we just did, you
Yeah,
just
the
did.
abilities to call special meetings is easy. If they can't get together, care about their water, that's on them. So
Yeah.
I would say,
I make a motion that we table this until legal counsel gets together.
it's just tabled. It doesn't need anything else.
There you go.
Second.
Set, motion's on the table to table it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great. Or motion made by Mr. Bowder, second by Mr. Dunn, all in favor? Aye, great. And I hope we pass it next time. Sorry, everybody. I mean, I don't think any of us expected that we, you know, get pushback on the 1.4. Maybe it's not pushback, it's just a
It's
technicality.
It's the procedures.
Motion is adjourned.